Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
The Other Side of Midnight.
77 WABC.
Local Spotlight.
Good morrow, everyone. This is The Other Side of Midnight on 77 WABC. I'm Frank Morano. You've heard the phrase, truth is stranger than fiction, but this latest story out of Long Island takes that saying to a whole new level. Thomas Mascia, a now former state trooper, has been charged with faking a shooting in a stunt so elaborate it has shut down the Southern State Parkway and launched a manhunt for a suspect who never existed. Here's how it went. Back in October, Mascia claimed he'd been shot in the leg by a gunman during a routine traffic stop. Others scrambled to the scene. Traffic backed up for miles, and the public was left terrified. For a moment, Mascia was hailed as a hero. He was wheeled out of the hospital to applause, a smile on his face. But behind the scenes, his story was unraveling faster than rush hour traffic on that same parkway. Prosecutors now say Mascia staged the entire thing. He scattered shell casings at the scene, drove away, and shot himself in the leg, then reported the fake attack over the radio. Surveillance footage? No suspect. Ballistics? All from his own gun. Body camera? Didn't show a thing. And it doesn't stop there. Police later found a rifle with illegal modifications in the West Hempstead home Mascia shares with his parents. Both of them are now facing felony charges as well. Adding to the bizarre family saga, Mascia's father, a former NYPD officer, is a convicted felon who shouldn't have had access to firearms in the first place. So why did he do it? Attention? Sympathy? Ego? That's the big mystery. Mascia's lawyer, who at least at one point was Jeffrey Lichtman, chalks it up to untreated mental health issues, and maybe that's true. But as Nassau County District Attorney Ann Donnelly put it, this was unconscionable. Think about the resources wasted, the fear stoked in the community, and the damage done to the reputation of law enforcement. Trooper Mascia's actions could have put real lives at risk. Now, here's where I have to say something selfish. Trooper Mascia, if late-night shifts were too much for you, you could have embraced the overnight hours as an opportunity. You could have tuned into my show. Trust me. It's a lot healthier to pass the time listening to me talk about UFOs and overnight oddities than, well, maybe shooting yourself for attention. Instead, he faces up to 4 years in prison for falsifying evidence, and maybe, just maybe, some quiet time behind bars will give him a chance to reflect on the chaos he caused, not just for himself, but for everyone involved.
Beam me up!
To be continued.
Tell Me What Happened is a podcast that asks, what would you do if you saw someone needing help?
This tree comes crashing through the roof of my vehicle, and I said, I don't know if I'm going to make it.
Listen to the true stories of people who choose to save a stranger on Tell Me What Happened.
The Other Side of Midnight.
77 WABC.
Local Spotlight.
Good morrow, everyone. This is The Other Side of Midnight on 77 WABC. I'm Frank Morano. Sometimes being a leader goes beyond what's written in the job description. That's exactly what Thomas Fritz, the mayor of Allentown, New Jersey, did on New Year's Eve when his town faced an extraordinary crisis. It started with a shooting. The suspect was still at large, and police had issued a shelter-in-place order for the borough's 1,700 residents. Alerts were sent out through social media and official channels, but Mayor Fritz quickly realized that might not be enough. What about the people in businesses, the diners, the shoppers, the visitors who may not have checked their phones? So he did what any mayor would do, or rather what any mayor should do. He took off on foot, literally running door to door through the half-square-mile town, warning businesses and residents to lock their doors and stay safe. It's also almost like New Jersey's version of Paul Revere. Picture it. The mayor jogging into Woody's Diner, which was packed with people entirely unaware of the danger outside, or the local pharmacy where patrons were going about their day. Thanks to his quick action, Fritz made sure they knew to take precautions. He even helped shoppers leaving stores get safely into their cars and ensured the streets were as clear as possible. This wasn't about politics or public relations. This was instinct. Fritz put himself out there, running through his town for over 2 hours, doing what needed to be done to protect his community. It's not often we see this level of hands-on leadership, especially in a crisis, but it should serve as a model. Too often, elected officials stay in their offices during emergencies, relying on press conferences or social media to communicate. While those tools are important, there's nothing quite like the personal touch of a leader on the ground actively engaging with the people they serve. And it wasn't just Mayor Fritz who shone that day. He was quick to credit the Allentown police, volunteers, and town staff for their incredible teamwork. The police eventually captured the suspect, ensuring the community could breathe a little easier. But what stands out most is how Mayor Fritz saw a gap in the response and filled it. He didn't wait for someone to tell him what to do. He acted, and he acted fast. We often say we want our leaders to lead. Well, that's exactly what Thomas Fritz did. And maybe, just maybe, this story will inspire other local officials to remember that leadership isn't about power or title. It's about action, responsibility, and yes, sometimes it's about running through your town to make sure everyone stays safe. Here's hoping more leaders take notes from Mayor Fritz.
Beam me up!
To be continued.
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
The Other Side of Midnight.
77 WABC.
Local Spotlight.
You know, sometimes politicians manage to trip over themselves trying to be inclusive, and the result is, well, not exactly inclusive. Case in point, New York City Controller Brad Lander. Heaven help us if this man ever ends up in the mayor's office. Brad Lander deciding to ditch the term Latinx in favor of the even more obscure Latine, Latine. Now, let's be honest, who uses these terms? According to Pew Research, only 2% of Latinos in the United States prefer the term Latinx. And Latine? That's even more niche. Only 1%. The overwhelming majority of people from Latin America prefer to be called what they've been called for decades: Latino, Latina, or Hispanic. Simple, clear, familiar. But apparently that's not good enough for Brad Lander, who's so eager to show how evolved he is that he's inventing new terms. He claims Latine is more inclusive and easier to pronounce in Spanish. That's great in theory, but what's the point of inclusivity if no one actually identifies with the term? This isn't a community-led initiative. It's linguistic gymnastics designed to impress a very small, very insular group of progressive activists. Here's the reality. Most everyday Latinos aren't worried about whether someone calls them Latinx or Latine. They're worried about housing. housing costs, good jobs, crime, safe streets, making sure their kids get a quality education. You think someone struggling to make rent cares what Brad Lander writes in a statistical report? And this isn't just a linguistic quirk. It's a broader issue with politicians like Lander who seem completely disconnected from the priorities of the communities they claim to represent. By obsessing over these hyper-academic, barely used terms, they come off as out of touch, more focused on virtue signaling than on solving real problems. Even within New York City government, there's no consensus on this. Mayor Adams has stuck with Hispanic and Latino in his events, and city council members are all over the map, with some using Latino, some Latinx, and as far as I can tell, none using Latin. And here's the kicker. The only Latina running for office, running for mayor this year, State Senator Jessica Ramos, sticks with Latino. Maybe that's because she actually understands her own community. Look, inclusivity is important, but inclusivity without connection is just noise. Brad Lander's decision to use Latin isn't about respecting people's identities. It's about showcasing how progressive he is, even if it alienates the very people he's trying to impress.
Beam me up!
To be continued.
This episode is brought to you by Principles. Are there limits to the U.S. government's debt growth? What will happen if the debts are not curtailed? What should policymakers or investors do? Those are urgent questions that legendary investor and New York Times bestselling author Ray Dalio addresses in his new book, How Countries Go Broke: The Big Cycle. The book comes out in June and is available for pre-order today, wherever books are sold.
The Other Side of Midnight.
77 WABC.
Local Spotlight.
If you've ever felt like ripping out your Easy Pass in frustration, today might just push you over the edge. The MTA has racked up a staggering $5.1 billion, that's billion with a B, in unpaid tolls over the past 4 years, and yet, instead of fixing the problem, the agency has doubled down with a shiny new revenue scheme, congestion pricing. Yes, the same MTA that can't collect billions is already owed. It's about to charge honest, hardworking commuters even more for the privilege of driving into Manhattan. When the MTA switched to cashless tolling, they promised efficiency and convenience. What they didn't mention was the free-for-all it would create for toll evaders. No gates, no cash lanes, just cameras snapping license plates, many of which are conveniently obscured or outright fake. And here's the kicker. Over 40 million non-payments were recorded between 2021 and 2023 alone. Now, the MTA claims it eventually collects about half of these unpaid tolls, but even that's hard to verify. $1.4 billion in unpaid tolls just last year, and projections that congestion pricing could add another $2 billion in losses annually. And if you think the agency is cracking down on scofflaws, think again. Its own reports talk about equity and financial hardship 22 times, as if a toll is somehow optional depending on your circumstances. Meanwhile, the rest of us, the law-abiding majority, are footing the bill. Every unpaid toll means higher fares, steeper tolls, and more absurd fees for those of us who play by the rules. It's a textbook example of how the MTA, and by extension Albany, punishes the honest while letting the rule breakers skate by. The MTA's political overlords have created a vicious cycle. Every missed toll encourages more people to try their luck evading payment. And what's the response from Albany? More tolls. Instead of enforcing the rules and holding violators accountable, they're taxing the law-abiding into oblivion. New Yorkers are tired. We're tired of being nickel and dimed for every misstep and miscalculation by the MTA. We're tired of being told that congestion pricing will solve everything when it's clear it will only add to the chaos. And most of all, we're tired of politicians who refuse to tackle the root of the problem. Stop toll evasion before you slap another toll on the rest of us. audit the MTA, enforce the laws, and make it clear that driving through New York isn't a free-for-all.
Beam me up!
To be continued.